Welcome back to Joe's Toolbox Exchange. Today we're going to be looking at some lockers, some snap-on lockers specifically, and the one we're going to be going into the most depth on is going to be the Epiq locker. There are a couple variations between the Epiq, the Classic, and the Masters lockers, and then inside of those series there's also some differences on the models like a power locker or a non-power locker. The locker we are going to be looking at specifically today is going to be a KELN 301B. I'm not exactly sure what the difference between a 301B and a 301D is. The D is the current production model and the B is the earlier production model. Although from looking at the data online and in the catalogs and just seeing them side by side, I don't see any difference at all. So if one of you guys knows why they switched the part number, that would be helpful to know, but the rest of the part number did stay the same and the specs stayed the same. So the dimensions, the weight ratings, the cubic, the square, and the overall appearance of it is the exact same. The only difference I can see is the wheels. The wheels on the newer style, if you want to come over here, on the newer Epics are going to look like this. Where they have a locking bar on both sides, and it kind of has this V-shaped caster. And then if you want to come look at these, this is going to be the model that we have now on these older models where you just have the lever on one side. So if you're actually pulling the box, you would not be able to access the locking mechanism, and if you were pushing it, you would. While we're talking about the wheels, something else I want to mention is this wheel is actually a Classic Series wheel, and this is how a lot of the lockers come in. If you buy one pre-assembled from your dealer, you're probably not going to see it with this option, but the reason is just to make it movable. You're not really supposed to keep those wheels on there. These are not meant to be used as standalone units. They're meant to permanently attach to your box via the mounting holes on the outside of the locker and on the box on the side where you would traditionally put the handle. This is the box that it came on. This is an 84 Epiq. The color here is really unique. This is called Suare Ice. This is actually the first time I've seen this color, and that is titanium trim. It's really cool. It's kind of a cross between a combat tan and Arctic silver. It's kind of a unique color, especially with the gunmetal. It's really cool, or titanium they call it now. It's really cool, but I've never seen it before, so it'd be hard to get attachments. So that's something, if you guys are looking at buying one of these boxes, that's something to keep in mind, that you're probably not gonna be able to add like a second locker to it. Most people wouldn't though. You usually just see them with one locker. The dimensions of them are 30 by 30, so it is a cube all the way around, and it is going to be 74 inches from the floor to the top. And like I mentioned, when you take these wheels off, there's a bracket in here that you would also unmount. So these wheels are actually sitting on this bracket, which you can kind of see right here. This would no longer be there. And alternatively, you could put that wheel on this side. I have seen people put 4 casters on it, the 4 of the Epiq casters on it, and just use it as a roll-around car. I will say they're pretty flippy though. At being 30 by 30, it really doesn't have a big enough base to be super stable. Although you're really not weight rating drawers down so much, because there are drawers in them, but most of the weight is going to be the inside of it. It's not like on a traditional box where you would have a likelihood of flipping it, but that would be something I would keep in mind. These things don't weigh that much. They're really big, but they do flip. So I would definitely permanently mount it to your box so you don't have to worry about it. But save those wheels, because down the road when you go to move them or sell them, it makes it really easy. If you want to separate it and sell it separately, you can just pull it off and then, load it onto a trailer without having to worry, because they weigh enough. When you take these wheels off, they want to flip over. They're hard to transport. I think I said the list price is going to be just over $6,000 of the current production D model. I think it's like $6,035 list price. So it is very expensive. It's coming in at the price of a Classic Series box. You could buy a Classic Series box for the same price as you can just buy one of these lockers, but you do get a lot of storage. And something I like about the Epiq lockers is they come with a bunch of drawers. The Classic and Master Series don't come with all of the drawers. They only come with 4, and they come with some shelves. This is a much better design. And before we get on to the details on the inside and the comparisons, I'll just run through the overall specs. The net weight of this box is 467 pounds, so it is not super heavy for the size. If you think about a Master or a Epiq Series box weighing over 1,000 pounds, it's not terribly heavy. The cubic inches is going to be 32,835, so a ton of cubic inches. This works really good for blow mold or storing large things. And then your square inches, because there's not that many drawers or drawer space is pretty low at 4,310 inches. And then the load capacity, like all Epics, comes down to the wheels. Because this box traditionally only has 2 wheels on it, it's not supposed to have these wheels on there at all. You have 2 casters, and each caster is rated for a total of 2,000 pounds. So you're looking at a 4,000 pound capacity, or alternatively, a full-size Epic is at 8,000. That's because you have all 4 wheels. So this box at 2 wheels, 4,000 pounds is a lot of weight. 4,000 pounds is, what a Classic can hold. So you're looking at a pretty substantial amount of weight rating for ultimately a low low square inch storage. The dimensions 30, 30, 74. All Epics are going to be 30 inches deep, so it lines up perfectly with any Epic at all, besides one cart they made a long time ago. Other than that, every Epic they've ever made, whether it be a cart, a full-size box, a single, double, triple, 84, Mr. Big, they're all 30. So it's the same locker for all of them. Unlike the Master Series, where there's variations in the depth, the Epic does not have those options. It works on the same lock system as all the other ones, and the wheels are the exact same. So it lines up on the bottom along with the top. If you put a hutch on it, there is also only one option for the locker height, and that's because there's only one option for the Epic heights and the hutch heights for the Epics. I know it's a little bit complicated, but on the Classic Series, you can get them in different heights, and on the Master Series, you can get them different heights. So they come with different options for the lockers, so everything sits flush. If you want to pan over to our Classic here, this is actually the taller Classic locker, because there's one that's this tall because this box is tall. So they all kind of work together. So if you're buying a Classic or a Masters box, this is something to really pay attention to. But if you're buying an Epic box, you're not going to experience this issue because there is only one height, and there is the same for the boxes and same for the lockers. They'll always line up. Now we will get into the inside of it. I would like to mention there's a left hand and a right hand variation. That would be at the end of the part number. It'd be like a KELN301BR. That's a right hand, and alternatively the L is a left hand. And that's just saying what way the door is going to open. So, if your box is here, this would be a left hand and it would open this way, and then your right hand would be that way, just so you don't have to walk around your box to open it. You can actually switch them around on some of the series. I do not think you can do it on this one. You might be able to with these mounting holes here. Yeah, you probably can. I've never tried it on an Epic series. I've done it on the Masters and Classic, but I've never done it on an Epic. But you can take these screws out, probably mount them here. Don't hold me to that. I could be wrong. On the inside, I believe this box ships with 2 attachments. They're both can holders. They're both usually this long. Someone swapped this one for a smaller one, and then it looks like they added a screwdriver slot. We have a bunch of different attachments around here. We see pegboards all over. They make shelves and stuff. The shelves probably wouldn't work very well in there, but there are other stuff that would work, like down there is going to be dead blow hangers, things like that. And also the long pry bar holders work well in this. So you can see it can fit any attachment. It's just the slot panel, though. It's not a slot and dot. I don't know why. I really wish it was a dot, because it would be cool to be able to add, if you want to pan over here and show ours. The hutches have the slot and dot panels, so you can actually put these little hooks and attach all your tools. And you can even hang dead blows like this, or hammers. I wish that they had the slot and dot options inside of the lockers. They just don't. It's just slot. So it does kind of cut down on the options that you can hold. And then on the inside, like the Classic and Masters, you're going to have 4 drawers on the very bottom, and then you're going to have some shelves. So on a Classic or Masters version, it looks similar to this, only both of these would be fixed shelves that are adjustable. And I guess we could show it here, just like in ours for the Classic option, and see very similar. You have 4 drawers at the very bottom, and then, see there's some more attachments for the side trays. Those slot and dots, so there's some more slots, screwdrivers. These are all attachments that would work on the inside of that. But you can see this right here, and this right here are all fixed. So you can move them, but they don't pull out. They are just static shelves, which is fine. Although I really do like the pull out. Like for this, it makes this a lot more usable. If I just had all this stuff stacked in here, it'd be a pain. But you can pull it out and just grab something from the back easy. And I wish that these were the same. I haven't looked into purchasing more of these yet, but I have a feeling down the road I will, because I will swap these shelves out for the pull-outs. Something else to point out here is on the Classic and Masters, they both look like this. This is exactly what the Masters looks like. It's just a baby Masters. The Masters is going to be dimensionally larger. but overall it looks the exact same. It's just bare metal here, and the shelves are the exact same, just smaller. Where on the Epiq, you get a lot more robust. There's even little things like on the Classic, you have 2 of these little magnets. They're just small. Where on the Masters, you get 3 magnets. You know, it's little things like this. You also have, on the Epiq, you have trim on both sides. On the Classic or Masters, you do not see that. On the Masters, excuse me, you do. If you want to come show the Masters. This is not a Classic. This trim is off of a Masters locker, so this picture is wrong. That's kind of what threw me off, but this is correct. You'll notice this quite a bit with Snap-on's catalogs and with their information online. I don't exactly know why, but it should be better, especially for the amount of money these things cost and the valuation of the company. Like something, if you even want to look right here, like I noticed this when I was looking at this video, Snap-on's website was actually down today altogether, so I couldn't even pull information from online, so I was pulling it from catalogs. But if you see right here, this is the model we are talking about, a KELN 301. This is the exact model we are looking at. But if you see here, they say the weight, the net weight is 2,373. That's just blatantly wrong. They say the pounds, 2,373, or the kilograms, 1,076. That's just wrong. This thing doesn't weigh 2,000 pounds. You know, a box like this doesn't even weigh 2,000 pounds, and this is just a hollow shell pretty much. But then in the newer catalogs, looks like they've corrected it to say 467. So I don't know. You got to be a little careful when you're looking at some of that data online, because a lot of times is just wrong. So I'd definitely refer to a dealer, or maybe refer to like a review like on YouTube or something where someone's actually talking about it and can show it, because that's the most accurate representation. You know, like from the catalog, even the trim picture is wrong. It's like they had the wrong JPEG image in there and they just printed it. They should catch those things and they don't. But for what we're talking about here, the Classic and the Masters, both only have the trim, and then the Epiq has it on both sides. And then also on the inside of the Epiqs, they have these rubber bumpers on the edges of the drawers. And this helps a lot because when you open up these drawers, a lot of times you'll see it. These little rubs right here are pretty insignificant, and that's because that rubber did protect it. But on a lot of other boxes, you can come down here. Here is a Masters. We're getting a wall put in. We're closing off one of our suites, so excuse the mess. But this here is the Masters. And this is what I was saying with the trim only being on one side. You have the trim here, but there is no trim on this side. This is going to be the small Masters locker, so it's a little bit different. But you can see this one does not have the shelves, but once again, these look the exact same down here. And a lot of times these are removed. Also, this locker is non-vented. But you see these marks right here. These are in almost every Classic and Masters locker, because when this is open, if you go to shut it, what it's doing is it's catching the edges of these slides on this side, but it's all those sharp pieces that hang out. So it's catching it every time you have it. And a lot of times a guy will go to shut the locker while the door is just slightly open, and you'll get those deep gouges. And so that is one improvement over the Epiq series versus the Classic or Master series, is that you have those little rubber bumpers there to just kind of protect the box. The box here has some options on the side. Oh. On the back of the box, if you can see in there, that fits their standard power outlets. So they make an option that is going to be a power cart or a power locker. It's actually this one right here. It's a KELP 301. KELP means power. KELN means no power. So that's the difference in the model numbers. But they have this drawer right here is a little bit bigger, and then you lose one of your shelves above. If I was trying to decide between one of these, I would buy the non-power version all day, unless your box does not have a power drawer. For this scenario, it makes it perfect sense. You didn't want the power drawer because your box already has power on top and power on the box itself. But you can always attach a power outlet down, down below through there. Interface is just fine, and then you could just set your chargers here. Not quite as much storage, but a lot of you guys are only running, 1 or 2 chargers anyway, maybe a Snap-on and a couple Milwaukee or vice versa. But most people don't have 6 battery chargers, so I don't really know if you need that big of a space. And also you could save some money and then get the additional storage. All drawers are going to be rated at 227. I couldn't find the information online, but that is what I think is the case, because on Snap-on, the classic locker right there is rated for 227, and the box is rated for 227, so they recycled the slides, and it's the same scenario here. These slides look very similar, so I think the box is 227. It feels like 227. I was playing around with it earlier. If I put my weight on here, I would flip the box well before, and that's what I'm saying, and that's why it's a little bit scary. You know, I would flip the box pretty easily, not being bolted together. So that's why I would recommend bolting it. But you know, you're talking 227 across these 5, so you have over 1,000 pounds, you know, another 500, and then you have a shelf in here. So it did, you know, the 4,000 is going to be almost impossible to hit, because unless you're just stacking this static shelf or maybe the top of the box with a bunch. So they make a little overhead box that goes up there, and then that would contribute to the weight rating of the box also, just because it'd be going down to the same casters and same frame. I think that pretty much mentions everything I wanted to go over. It is vented on the back. That's what I said earlier. The other one wasn't. Our classic is the same way. It's cool because a lot of guys put fridges in these boxes. A lot of guys put fridges in these boxes. I don't know if that's what I would do. It seems like a very expensive way to store your drinks. I guess if your coworkers are stealing your stuff, though, stealing your lunch is probably worth doing. But a lot of people will take this shelf out and they'll move it down below. They'll put this solid shelf up higher, and then the back is vented because refrigerators produce quite a bit of heat, so you want to have a ventilation for them, and also it helps with the chargers. Although they don't vent any standard box, so chargers don't really produce enough. But the reason it's vented is for those applications where you're putting like a microwave in here. You see that quite a bit too. Guys will have a microwave on top of a fridge, and then it'll be kind of like a little break room in here where they can keep all their snacks and other junk. And that's what that back part is there for. The shelves are all modular. If you wanted to, you could take these shelves and move them higher. The only difference is if you do this, you got to be careful because the bottom ones are actually a bit deeper. So they can take these trays on the top. If you want to put these can holders down below, it'll actually smack into here and not allow the box to close. So traditionally you put can holders and other attachments above this line right here, so they don't. But if you wanted to, you could take these shelves and move them up higher. You would just lose the ability to put these there. And some people do that because they'll put the fridge on the bottom, or they'll put, you know, a bunch of really heavy blow mold cases on the bottom, and then the top will be lighter tools. I think overall the locker is a really good option. If you guys are running out of space in your box, you can buy one of these used. They're not too much money. You can, you know, anywhere from, on a classic like by us, there's been a guy that's trying to sell one bare, just a locker for a classic series. It's like mint condition. It's storm gray, and he's had it listed for the better part of 6 months, and he's asking $1,800 for it. So if I was outgrowing my box, that's definitely what I would consider, is buying something like that. Maybe the market is different in your area, but that's kind of what they sell for around here. You know, if somebody wanted to buy this locker, being an Epiq, I would sell it for probably $3,000. I would say $3,000 would be what I would sell it for individually. The box and the locker together, I believe we're $8,000. So that's kind of the math there. Maybe it's $9,000. I don't remember. But then these fit the blow mold cases really well. So you guys have a lot of testers, like, you know, pressure testers, and, you know, even like battery jumpers, and just a lot of these like big bulk tools, puller sets, compression testers, refrigerant, all these different big kits that you have that have all of the pieces in there. Those things are kind of hard to store in a box traditionally, especially on some of these older boxes where all the drawers are small. So you can bookshelf them. A lot of guys will take these and they will bookshelf them, so they'll have all of their stuff standing on end, so you can just pull it out, slide out the kit that you need, and then put it back in there. And same with here. So it just kind of gives you that benefit of being able to store a lot of those really large bulk items that traditionally you might need 2 boxes just to fit all of those things. But now you can kind of, you know, bookshelf them all in there, and then you can put a little top box on there for the stuff that you rarely use. You don't see the top boxes very often, but they're not that much money. So if you guys are outgrowing your boxes, that's something I would look at. I see it too much where somebody is outgrowing their box. So what they do is they just start over and buy a brand new box. I don't really think this is the way to go. I think Snap-on boxes are meant to be modular and added onto. If you have a double bank and you've outgrown it, in my mind, it would be more cost effective to purchase a used add-on, like a side box, a locker, a top box, a hutch, or another box entirely, and run them side by side. Like that's what we've done in our home box tour. We had 3 boxes all the same color put together, and that's far more cost effective versus buying an entirely new box and trading your old one in. And also the logistics of moving all the tools is a pain, and transporting these massive boxes is hard. So in my mind, I'd rather have two 60 Epics put together than an 84, and you can get two 60 Epics cheaper than you can buy two used 68 Epics. 60 Epics sell for like $4 grand. So if you bought two 60 Epics, you're at $8 grand. Well, if you buy a really nice 84 Epic, you're around $8 grand. So you could get, 120 inches versus 84 inches for around the same price. And also it's easier to move the 260s. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I would always try to expand your setup rather than just trading in your setup and buying something new. I think the boxes are meant to be modular. They're meant to add on to, and that's why they sell side boxes, power cabs, lockers, and these other things. This is a good example of what I'm talking about here. Snap-on even promotes this idea. You buy this box here, and then someday you can, add a locker to it. You can add a hutch to it. You can add top boxes to it. That's what these are. These are overhead cabinets. And then you can add, a side box. Or if you wanted to, you could just add a double and run them side by side, and you can just continue expanding out. So if you have a double, you could just buy another double instead of doing this. You wouldn't have to trade your double and to buy a triple. And I think that should be more common. I just see most people trade in their box altogether and take a beating on the trade-in value, comparing it to the price of new. So I think that's everything I wanted to go over today. I appreciate you guys watching. Hope that makes a little more sense with the three variations of lockers being classic, masters, and epics. $6,000 sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but keep in mind, I think in a lot of these videos, that is list price. What your dealer is actually willing to sell you one for could be half of that. It depends how motivated your dealer is, and at the end of the day, you often see the Epics trading around half of list price new on the truck. I wouldn't say your dealer's guaranteed going to do that, but it's not uncommon that I'll see a 68 Epic go for less than $8,000 and their list at 16. So I would say that, following trend, you can probably get these new off the truck for less than 5. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon.